Welcome to Nevada Newsmakers. On the program today, the leading expert on taxes in the state. Ray Hagar has the rundown.
Hi, I'm Ray Hagar with the Reno Gazette-Journal, and today's guest on Nevada Newsmakers is Carole Vilardo. She's Nevada's tax guru, and she's going to tell you the devil is in the details.
And coming up on the Power Pundit panel, Paul Mozen, Derek Morse, and Travis Souza. It's all coming up next on an all-new Nevada Newsmakers.
Nevada Newsmakers, brought to you in part by the Tahoe Reno Industrial Center, the world's largest industrial park, the resort at Red Hawk, and the Peppermill family of casinos.
Corporations moving to the Tahoe Reno Industrial Center require reliable power, fiber optic communication, and clean water sources. And yet, there's another amenity we're very proud of here at TRI, rail service. So far, we've built over 2 miles of railroad track, and another 3.6 is under construction. When companies need to transport freight, we're going to help them move it quickly and efficiently. Welcome to the Tahoe Reno Industrial Center, the largest industrial park in the world, building economic prosperity for Nevadans.
The resort at Red Hawk offers you 2 great dining choices. Experience David's Grill and Sports Bar or the Steakhouse at Red Hawk. The Steakhouse has received the Wine Spectator Award of Excellence based on a diverse selection of fine wines. To accompany the wines, the Steakhouse serves certified Angus beef steaks in a variety of cuts, fresh fish, chicken, and pasta dishes. For fun and casual dining, come to David's Grill and Sports Bar. David's is open 7 days a week, serving breakfast, lunch, and dinner. The resort at Red Hawk. Always the right choice.
As an employer, did you know you can be held liable for negligent hiring? A background screening by Employer Links can uncover criminal records, like alcohol and drug convictions. It can verify the applicant's education, driving records, and professional licenses. Employer Links can check civil records, registered sex offender records, and Social Security fraud. Hiring the right person shouldn't be a gamble. Call Employer Links. Employer Links, protecting your investment.
So, who do you use for workers' comp?
Pro Group Management.
Ah, I've heard some good things about them.
Oh, you bet. Employee background checks, safety training, claim seminars. Oh, and here's the great part. If you have an issue, they work for you, not against you.
Sounds perfect. And expensive.
Well, that's the best part. They saved me 30%. I've heard they saved others 50%.
Works for me. Pro Group Management. Finally, workers' comp that works for you.
You are watching Nevada Newsmakers.
5, 4, 3, 2. And back on Nevada Newsmakers, we're joined by Carole Vilardo, who's the president of the Nevada Taxpayers Association. Welcome to the program, as always.
Thank you.
You know, there's this conundrum that exists in this state as far as finances go, where we have excess sales and gaming taxes, and yet by a huge amount, not enough money in the budget for roads. How do we figure this out so we have money to build roads? Because we need them, surely.
There's no question. We have a double-edged sword, if you will. On one hand, with the Highway Trust Fund, during a normal budget cycle, what you have is a dedicated fund to build highways with dedicated revenue sources. And never the twain shall meet between surplus and the general fund. What we need is to get specific appropriations made. One of the things that we had recommended this year was the consideration be given to using part of that surplus and transferring it for capital infrastructure, building highways, so that we would mitigate some of the problems that are going to occur just because we don't have enough money coming in to keep up with the increases in cost to build roads.
What was the response?
We didn't get it, and so now there's a Blue Ribbon Transportation Committee that's going to be looking at how we attempt to sustain funding in the future for building roads.
There's been talk of a gas tax. You think that would fly in this era of
No, I don't.
plus gas?
No, I absolutely don't. There's been a lot of discussions, and I think in all probability, one of the things, and I'm one of the members of the committee, and just one, that will happen is there will be a number of recommendations made, because these were all recommendations that, as far as the ones I can think of, that would have to go to the legislature. And so there's going to have to be that political palatability with enacting something. And I think if the committee were to choose to just identify one source and give it to the legislature, and it's one the legislature does not like, we're right back to where we started. When I said the highway funding issue is a double-edged sword, on one hand, because it's a dedicated trust fund, we have very specific revenues for it. What makes it good to have the highway trust fund is that in normal situations, we're not competing for general fund dollars.
Right.
But what we've come up with is, as I just mentioned, the fact that the current funding mechanisms and what is allowed to be used to fund the highways is not keeping up with the growth and the cost of building highways.
Maybe just photographs of the spaghetti bowls at both ends of the state at the legislature. Let's talk about education, K through 12 and higher education. How do you come up with an amount of money that makes good fiscal sense? Because all the discussions seem to be, and I'm not against education by any stretch of the imagination, but we just need more and more and more and more. And it's not just $1 billion, it's hundreds of billions of dollars. I mean, don't we need to have a goal that we wish to attain in terms of buildings and in terms of pay, etc.?
I think one of the things you're talking about, and let's separate buildings right now and talk about operating or how you deliver money to educate students. And one of the issues that you're looking at there that will justify some of the demands being made is to show the public that they're getting a return on their investment, and that's not happening. And I think that's what you're referring to with having a set of goals.
Talk about education for a moment, both K through 12 and higher education. What concerns me, and I'm not against education by any stretch of the imagination, but all the proposals that keep coming out are asking for more and more money, and it's not just billions of dollars, it's hundreds of billions of dollars, it seems to me. But we don't seem to have a goal of where we want to. How do you make sound fiscal policy out of putting money into the school system and the university system?
I think we've had some discussions on this before, and a comment that you made I totally subscribe to, and that is setting goals of where you want to be. But apart from that, you've got to think outside the box. We can't deliver education exactly the way we're delivering it. There are cost efficiencies and ways that we can maximize the educational experience. Computer labs exist in every college and community college. And you have nobody who should be graduating from high school at this point who does not understand computers. We should be utilizing those computer labs when they're not otherwise being used by the university and college system. Things like that.
As far as an overall, I mean, can you do this as far as fiscal planning to say, okay, this is the level at which we want our universities and high schools to operate at, and then put a dollar figure to it and work your way towards that? Or is it just going to be constantly, well, we need this, we should get this, we should get this, we should get this? Because that's the way it seems.
The only thing that I have seen that works, the former is what is preferred, but you have to put the money in there, and then when it doesn't work, people come back for more money. Utah did something with some of the individual school districts where my counterpart association in Utah agreed to support additional mill levies for them, property tax increases, for 3 years for a demonstrated improvement in test scores and graduation rates in certain proficiencies. And if in 3 years they did not perform with the additional money they were supposed to, they lost the money. And I'm beginning to think we need to seriously look at something like that in Nevada.
Let's take a break. We'll come back with more with Carole Vilardo right after this time out.
For a videotape copy of any Nevada Newsmakers program, call 775-857-2244. The tapes are $20 each, including shipping.
For more than a decade, the Southern Nevada Water Authority has been helping the community embrace conservation as a way of life. That includes replacing more than 50 million square feet of grass with water-smart landscaping. During the worst drought on record, watering restrictions and tough landscaping codes have reduced the community's water use by billions of gallons, even as thousands of new residents were moving into Nevada. That's smart water management, and that's our promise to Nevada.
Happy Hour at the Peppermill.
Thanks to an ongoing commitment by America's mining companies, more than 2 million acres already have been reclaimed. To learn more about reclamation or other aspects of mining, visit nma.org. The National Mining Association.
Island Inkjet is now open on South Meadows Parkway. Island Inkjet will refill your inkjet cartridges in just 1 hour. We have the ink to precisely match over 240 cartridges, saving you up to 60% on the cost of buying a new cartridge. Our work is 100% guaranteed, and contrary to what you may have heard, refills do not void any printer warranties. You don't throw out your car when it runs out of gas. Don't throw out your cartridges. Refill them at Island Inkjet on South Meadows Parkway by Smith's.
You are watching Nevada Newsmakers.
5, 4, 3, 2. And back on Nevada Newsmakers, we're talking with Carole Vilardo. She's president of the Nevada Taxpayers Association. You're doing a summary currently right now of the initiatives that are going to be put before the voters. What have you come up with so far, and especially the unintended consequences?
That's the biggest problem I'm seeing right now, is the fact there are unintended consequences. I don't know where our board is going to come down, and one of the initiatives may or may not be within our purview. I still haven't taken a look at the monetary aspects. But if I look at Sharon Engel's initiative, there are at least 5 areas of that potentially have unintended consequences, because you have to make certain assumptions. You have no idea what the assumptions are, and what I'm afraid of is we're going to see what happened in California with Prop 13. We're going to be in court a lot of years. I know for a fact that there was a major court case on Prop 13 issue 2 years ago. I see the same thing happening on this. The initiatives are well-intentioned, but unfortunately they tend not to be policy statements anymore, which is what you really want your Constitution to be. Establish the policy, let the legislature set the specific parameters. We're writing constitutional amendments that look like statute with the detail, and the problem is when you make an error, or even if you don't, even if it looks perfect, it's impossible to know every situation that might occur in the future. So you find out after it passes that you've got a real glitch nobody could have anticipated. The problem, when you're that specific, is now it's going to take us 5 years to correct the glitch.
Do you have concerns still about the tax relief that was passed on property taxes being unconstitutional? Does that bother you at this point?
Yes. It bothers me because I do believe that we did violate the Constitution, definitely with a split roll. That being said, it is now law. It's what we're working with. And no, I don't anticipate anybody suing on it, at least not at this point. There's a potential for when we've gone a full year cycle on it, and possibly some people appeal and feel that they've been aggrieved because of the decision, compounded by the way the language works of the capping mechanism, that then we may see a suit. But at this point in time, relative to the split roll, no.
How long would that person... No, I don't even want to...
No, that person might not last too long, depending on the court decision.
In the last session, the minimum wage initiative, there was an interesting portion of that, right?
Well, what happened was the bill from last session was to, in effect, establish the minimum wage parameters, which had been passed by initiative petition, and then there were obviously attempts to modify it. I think the initiative petition is absolutely terrible. Most people did not see the full text of that initiative. This is another one that's not a policy document. It sets up very specific parameters within the Constitution. If it's passed, and it did pass on the ballot, it'll be on the November ballot in 2006. But the interesting part is a provision in there that allows a union to be exempt from paying minimum wage, which I still don't understand, since it was circulated by the unions. But be that as it may.
That's very bizarre.
It is extremely bizarre.
Okay, something else that's bizarre, and we talked about this earlier and you brought it to my attention, is that the county clerks don't have to put the full text of the initiatives out to the public.
That is correct. There is a provision in statute that where the cost would be prohibitive, that the clerks only need to make copies available at a polling place. The law has changed that this time, so that the next time around they'll not only be available at the polling place, but there will be a sign to tell you, and there will be some language in the sample ballot, as memory serves, that tells you where you can access the text. I don't know how many times that I have spoken to groups and I have said, please, vote the way you want. We may have a position. It's important you vote, and you vote for what you're comfortable for. But please read and attempt to understand what you're voting for. And that question, which is approximately 25 words on all of our ballot questions, is nowhere near the full text of what an initiative says. And so if you don't have that text printed because of cost constraints, and you had cost constraints in Clark County. We had a 96-page ballot because it was printed in English and Spanish.
Right.
And the cost would have almost doubled if all of the text of all the initiatives and the ballot questions appeared in that sample ballot.
Well, I just think it's so important for the public to be made aware. Last question here. The federal government spending between Katrina, the war, the deficits, and there's some talk of making budget cuts along the way here, but we know that nothing's going to happen before the next presidential election. What kind of problems will the next president of the United States have to deal with fiscally? We've got about a minute.
Well, he's going to have to deal with what you do with the deficit, which is definitely looming. He's also going to have to figure out on his political agenda in dealing with that how whatever he sees as the solution will pass Congress and be accepted by Congress as their solution. And that's always the trick.
You know, I've got a granddaughter who's 8 years old, and I don't think she can afford the deficit we have right now.
There's no deficit that I know of that anybody can afford right now out in the future. It's intergenerational debt, and that's unfortunate.
Carole Vilardo, always a pleasure. Thank you so much for being here. Appreciate it. We'll be right back on Nevada Newsmakers after this.
This is Nevada Newsmakers.
Welcome to the Tahoe Reno Industrial Center, just 10 minutes east of Sparks. We're proud that Walmart and other Fortune 500 companies have chosen Tahoe Reno Industrial Center to relocate their businesses. We have sites from under 5 acres to well over 500 acres, and with all of the amenities that every successful corporation requires. Welcome to the Tahoe Reno Industrial Center, the largest industrial park in the world, and we're building economic prosperity for Nevadans.
The Nevada Beer Wholesalers encourages the responsible consumption of beer. The Nevada Beer Wholesalers Association are sponsors and participants in many community-based efforts such as school education programs, safe ride home, recycling programs, alcohol-free after-prom and graduation parties, safe voting campaigns, and designated driver programs. They are family-owned businesses employing 2,000 Nevadans. They also collect and pay the state excise tax. The Nevada Beer Wholesalers Association, delivering more than just beer.
My family started this business 27 years ago.
We work hard to serve our customers and our community.
But it's getting harder and harder to keep the doors open.
For example, our workers' comp is going through the roof. Isn't anyone on my side anymore?
The Retail Association of Nevada is. If you're a small business owner, we can cut your workers' comp by up to 50%, lobby for your interests, and keep you informed. Put us to work today. The resort at Red Hawk offers you 2 great dining choices. Experience David's Grill and Sports Bar or the Steakhouse at Red Hawk. The Steakhouse has received the Wine Spectator Award of Excellence based on a diverse selection of fine wines. To accompany the wines, the Steakhouse serves certified Angus beef steaks in a variety of cuts, fresh fish, chicken, and pasta dishes. For fun and casual dining, come to David's Grill and Sports Bar. David's is open 7 days a week, serving breakfast, lunch, and dinner. The resort at Red Hawk. Always the right choice.
And now, back to Nevada Newsmakers.
Hi, Ray Hagar with the Reno Gazette. We're here with the Power Pundit panel today. First, we have Derek Morris, regional transportation lobbyist. We have Deidre Pike, Deidre, columnist for the Reno News and Review, Travis Souza with BlueVoter.net, and Dr. Paul Mozen, a political consultant who will also consult on medical matters.
Hangnails.
Okay, hangnails. That's right. First off, this morning it was announced that Harriet Miers asked President Bush to withdraw her nomination for the Supreme Court. This is the only candidate that both Harry Reid and President Bush can agree on. Derek, where do we go from there?
You know, it's interesting. We seem to have two criteria now for justices. You have to know the law, and you have to have the right ideology. Now, I can support knowing the law. The ideological test is something that's going to make it very difficult to get anyone to rally around a good nominee.
Deidre, are we going to get a woman on the Supreme Court? Or?
Well, gosh, I hope so, but maybe not Harriet Miers. She wasn't particularly qualified. Kind of a Bush crony, I thought. And,
not qualified. Her office was 30 feet from the president's.
Oh, well, okay.
What qualification is that?
I actually think that's kind of a detraction. I think this whole cronyism thing is getting out of hand. I mean, part of the reason they nominated Harriet was so that she could protect the executive branch in the Supreme Court if she got there with all the firestorm of controversy that's going on. So I'm hopeful that, you know, maybe some of this stuff will come out. I mean, the fact that they're saying that she withdrew the nomination just because she didn't want those internal documents getting out is, I think, kind of weak.
I would make a slight variation on Derek's statement. You don't have to know the law, you have to know somebody. And Harriet Miers knew somebody.
But when you talk about cronyism, we talk about George Bush is taking it to the next level, but Bill Clinton was pretty good at cronyism too, wasn't he?
Well, you got most of the people that Bill Clinton nominated were qualified. I mean, just look at FEMA. I mean, FEMA's a perfect example. I can't remember his name.
Michael Brown.
No, the previous, I mean, the FEMA director under Clinton. But under Clinton, the FEMA ran like a top. So, I mean, there is something to be said. Yes, I mean, everybody gets nominated because they know somebody. But there's a difference between nominating somebody just on that fact or because they actually have talents and things that
when you say
bring to the job.
FEMA work like a top, we didn't have a level 5 hurricane come through.
That's a rather extreme example. But historically, every president has brought with him the people he knows. If they came as a governor, they brought in perhaps the highway people they knew from the state. They brought in, you know, financial advisors. There's nothing wrong with that. But the first criterion has to be competence. And I think what we're seeing here is that that's being overlooked very often in these appointments. Not that the Bush administration has not made some good appointments. They have. But they have ostensibly a higher percentage of these where the competence wasn't really the factor. It was more that they were known by the president. And that's unfortunate. I think that tarnishes his image. And certainly within his broader circle, there are a lot of very competent people that he could have brought in.
But are you saying Harriet Miers was not competent in the first place?
Well, you know, competence, I'm competent at what I do, but I'm not a medical doctor. I wouldn't claim competence there. I think she's probably a very good person, an intelligent person, everything. Does she have the background in the law that's necessary for a Supreme Court justice? I think there were a lot of legitimate questions about that. You know, whether or not she sat 30 feet from the president's office isn't really an issue as far as I'm concerned, but I think they really need to look at that and say, you know, does she have the background you need to decide these fundamental decisions for our country? I think that's important.
The real losers here, Ray, are the American people, because
you sound like you're running for office.
No. Under our system, though, you know, the president nominates and the Senate then has to advise and consent. Well, we didn't get to see the hearings. We didn't get to see what Harriet Miers thinks. Maybe she is a good justice. Maybe she would make a good Supreme Court justice. I kind of like the fact that there was some diversity there, that she wasn't a Harvard-graduated appeals judge.
You know, that's one thing that I think hurt her, is that she wasn't part of the Eastern establishment from Harvard and Yale. She went to law school at Southern Methodist and wasn't part of the inner clique. Now,
whoever heard of that school?
One thing that John Ensign said, that in her interview with her, that she was evasive, and I've talked to many politicians who have been evasive. What about this evasive level of Harriet Miers?
Well, you know, getting back to your first point, I don't think that if she had a solid background, you know, in constitutional issues, regardless of where she went to school, that there would have been this problem. But that just wasn't her area of expertise. She didn't deal with those types of issues. You know, whether she went to school in Texas or California, I don't think that was really the issue. It's, you know, out of all the hundreds of people that are out there, that have a strong background in jurisprudence and know about the constitutional issues. Why couldn't they have selected someone along
Well,
those
again,
lines?
we didn't get to learn about that. We don't know what she knew because we didn't get to hear a hearing where she was interviewed.
Well, we asked her on a questionnaire. She was given a questionnaire, a chance to tell us a little bit, and her answers were quite inadequate from what I hear.
She did tell us that her favorite color is red.
Well, I think on this end of the table we have some bipartisan
that
agreement.
alone should qualify her for the Supreme Court, I would think.
Okay, real quick, Bob Beers around the table wants to cut the county government or city governments out of the motor vehicle registration tax, which I know is called something else, but real quick, what do you think?
Well, this is a wonderful opportunity. Playing to an audience that wants to see tax cuts, and yet the pain doesn't come back to the state legislature. It falls directly on the counties. It's this kind of never-never-land aspect, and we have it set up perfectly. You can make all these pronouncements, and I'm not banging on Bob. Everyone's going to do this, but you don't have to take any responsibility because the legislature doesn't meet until after the election. So it's a great thing. You can be the hero and not
Why does he hate the DMV so much? He's always after the DMV.
Shameless self-promotion.
Well, let's cut it right there. We'll be back after this.
Nevada Newsmakers, brought to you in part by the Tahoe Reno Industrial Center, the world's largest industrial park, the resort at Red Hawk, and the Peppermill family of casinos.
South Reno's hotspot for food, fun, and friends is the Tamarack Junction. Play over 480 of the hottest slots and video poker games. Enjoy hot times and sizzling food specials at Sully's Sports Bar, Grill, and Nightclub. Watch your favorite game on one of our jumbo high-definition plasma TVs. Enjoy great food 24 hours a day in the Dining Car Restaurant. Or sample the best hot and cold sandwiches in the Whistle Stop Deli. The Tamarack Junction is your junction for fun. South Virginia and Abadi Ranch Parkway. Yeah.
Island Inkjet is now open on South Meadows Parkway. Island Inkjet will refill your inkjet cartridges in just 1 hour. We have the ink to precisely match over 240 cartridges, saving you up to 60% on the cost of buying a new cartridge. Our work is 100% guaranteed, and contrary to what you may have heard, refills do not void any printer warranties. You don't throw out your car when it runs out of gas. Don't throw out your cartridges. Refill them at Island Inkjet on South Meadows Parkway by Smith's.
Reno's best dining values are all at one casino, the Peppermill. You can enjoy great savings on our popular specials. Peppermill's coffee shop offers daily lunch specials, low-carb dining, and all your favorite comfort foods. You'll find sensational lunch specials featuring Reno's freshest seafood, sushi, pasta, and more at Oceano. And early bird specials at Reno's Premier Steakhouse and Romanza Ristorante Italiano. The best values are at the Peppermill. Where are you dining?
Hey, thanks for watching today. Next week we're going to have gubernatorial candidate Senator Bob Beers of Las Vegas. Don't want to miss it. Thank you again.